I'd like to welcome you to our Christmas Eve service. Our opening hymn is number 234, O Come All Ye Faithful, and I ask that you please stand and remain standing for the responsive reading to follow. That's number 234, O Come All Ye Faithful. Arise, shine, for your light has come. And nations shall come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising. To Bethlehem, hasten with joyful accord. Unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given.
Come, let us adore him.
And government shall be upon his shoulders, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace.
O come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord. O come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. O come ye to Bethlehem.
To Bethlehem hasten with joyful accord. Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people.
Sing choirs of angels, sing in exaltation. O sing, all ye citizens of heaven above.
For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. Glory be to God in the highest, and peace to his people on earth.
O come, let us adore him. O come, let us adore him. O come, let us adore him. Christ the Lord.
You may be seated. Tonight we have a special presentation by our Handbell Choir, so I will ask them to please come up. Please join me in the responsive reading of the Gospel of Luke 2. This is found in the bulletin, and you may remain seated. And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And this tax was first made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria. And all went to be taxed, everyone into his own city. And Joseph also went up from Galilee, out of the city of Nazareth, into Judea, unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be taxed with his espoused wife, being great with child. And so it was, that while they were there, the days were accomplished that she should be delivered.
She brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room in the inn.
And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the fields, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them,
Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. You shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger.
And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God and saying,
Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men.
Our hymn of praise is number 240, Hark the Herald Angels Sing, and you remain seated, please. When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let us go now to Bethlehem and see this thing that has taken place, which the Lord has made known to us." So they went with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the child laying in the manger. Our hymn is number 217.
Oh
When they saw this, they made known what had been told them about this child. And all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds told them. But Mary treasured all these words and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all that they had heard and seen as it had been told them. Our hymn is number 230, A Little Town of Bethlehem. Let us pray. O God, whose love blesses and unites us in this place and time, we come before you with hearts gladdened by this holy season, its lights, its colors, and most especially its message of peace and goodwill to all. In the birth of Jesus, you have given our weary and struggling world reason to rejoice. In the cry of an infant, you have given hope to all who cry. By the light of a star, you have helped us find our way again. We thank you, good and generous God, that in Jesus the Christ, you have made yourself known and have beckoned us to join you in the continual creation of a world where wolf and lamb shall dwell together and justice will roll down like water. Create in us, O God, hearts devoted to shaping that world, and bless especially those for whom such a world seems only a distant dream: the poor, the imprisoned, the ill, the lonely, the despised. Open our hearts, Spirit of life, to the news of angels and the wonder of shepherds, that these days may renew us for the days to come. Grant us, for the sake of Christ's ministry, hearts that may discern how to make meaningful the gospel which we cherish. Grant to your glory that those whose lives we touch may hear in our words and see in our lives that truly you are merciful and gracious and abounding in steadfast love. These things we ask, trusting in your care for us today and always. Amen. Jay and Miriam came to church one Christmas Eve, but didn't stay. This was at a little church in a small town in the mountains. It was a very cold night, and there was still some snow remaining, though the last snowfall had been nearly 10 days prior. Miriam was about 8 months pregnant at the time. They got there a little late, mostly because Jay really didn't want to come and had delayed as long as possible. The tiny church was crowded, and the congregation was already in the midst of singing, "O come, all ye faithful," as they came up the front steps. There was no place to sit in the back pews, and, as far as one could see, no place up front either. Chairs had been set up in the aisle and along the back wall, and these also appeared to be all occupied, though it was difficult to know for certain since everyone at the moment was standing. Jay went to the person at the end of the last pew to request that his wife be allowed to sit there, thinking that surely, seeing the condition of his wife, the place would be given up gladly and freely. The person kept right on singing as if he had not even heard. Everyone in the nearby pews also kept their heads in the hymnal, acting as if they were unaware of what was transpiring. It was too much for Jay. He said something which was probably a little more appropriate to a pool hall than to a church, grabbed his wife by the elbow, and ushered her down the front steps out to the car. Now I should explain about Jay, that he was always one to speak his mind. If you were to say to him, "Looks like it's going to be a nice day," he might argue with you, pointing out all the reasons that more than likely it wasn't going to be a good day. I remember once he got so angry at the second baseman on his softball team when a ball had gone right between his legs, allowing 2 runs to score, that he took the ball and tried to hit him with it. And I know he put at least one good job, simply because the boss criticized him for something he didn't think was his fault. About religion, he could be especially abrasive. This was in the days before the scandals about the television evangelists. But those were the kinds of things which would keep him or give him no end of pleasure. He avidly collected and repeated any story that showed the phony and hypocritical nature of Christmas. It seemed for him to be not just idle curiosity, as one might be fascinated with why certain individuals became involved in politics. Rather, there seemed to be a certain anger, as if he felt by that Jesus stuff, as he called it, and was out to prove to himself and to anybody else who would listen that he was just as good as they were any day. I don't think he was particularly knowledgeable about it. If you asked him to look up Luke chapter 2 in the Bible, I doubt that he would know how to do it. Yet he had some training when he was little. His mother, I think, went to church often and had taken him at least occasionally to Sunday school. I know that because I heard him talk about Erwin, a sniveling little boy that was in his Sunday school class. Every chance he got, Erwin would pinch him under the table. Jay finally hauled off and hit him. The teacher scolded him and said something to the effect, "Now how do you think Jesus feels about you when you do something like that?" He had decided then and there that if God was on the side of people like Erwin and that Sunday school teacher, then he would just as soon not have anything to do with him. I don't mean to give the impression that Jay was an unlikable person. He certainly wasn't. For one thing, he was quite handsome. There was a certain freshness about his forthrightness. Miriam saw a lot of good in him, though I think she viewed him as a little boy, still trying to grow up. While he had his temper tantrums, he could also be extremely generous. Some of his friends, to her way of thinking, sometimes took advantage of him, but he never seemed to mind. She was of a more religious sort than he, but after their marriage, she complied with his habit of not going to church. It was indeed the lifestyle of many of her friends. It seemed like a step of growing up. When you are little, you believe in Santa Claus and go to church. When you grow up, you become worldly wise, sophisticated, and put away childish things. However, with her first child on the way, and it being Christmas, she found that she missed it even more than she had before realized. She was the one who made the suggestion they go to the Christmas Eve candlelight service. He had predictably fussed about having to put a coat on and a tie and to sit through all that Jesus stuff. But she told him a little Jesus won't hurt you, and so he took her. Leaving church after their unfortunate experience, he launched again into his sermon about the rude, deceitful nature of Christians. Any place else, he said, people would have gladly given up the best seat for an expectant mother. But church people? No way. But the people who filled the church on Christmas Eve, especially maybe some of those seated in the back, probably weren't church people, but were more than likely people like Jay himself, putting in their appearance, didn't occur to him. For infrequent attenders sometimes prefer the back. They would rather watch from a distance, not wanting to appear too rebellious, and hoping not to be embarrassed by sitting when they are supposed to be standing. But that is just my editorial comment. I couldn't prove it to you, one way or the other. At any rate, Jay was too upset to drive straight home. He needed time to work this off his chest. And so he started to drive around, more or less aimlessly. "Where are we going?" Miriam asked. Jay told her that he thought they might as well drive around to look at the Christmas lights. Miriam told him she wanted to go home. "Be that way," he said, and rather angrily started taking the shortest route home, which in this case meant going over a mountain ridge rather than around it. The highway and major roads had been cleared of snow many days ago. That's why, going to church that night, they had gone in their Chevy instead of their four-wheel drive, and hadn't bothered with boots or hats. The road over the ridge had not been cleared of snow, but it wasn't that bad. In most cases, it wouldn't have given anybody any problems. But this time, as he worked his way uphill, the back end fishtailed and slid into the soft snow on the side of the road. The kind of snow they call sugar snow. It doesn't pack. The right rear wheel sank in. He tried for a time to work his way out of trouble. At first, the car would go backwards, but not forward. But backwards only brought him deeper into the sugar snow. Eventually, it wouldn't budge at all. Muttering curses about the villainous nature of Christians who had gotten him into this predicament, he got out to take a look. He tried with his bare hands to dig the snow away from the tire. Shivering with cold, he went to the front door on the passenger side to tell Miriam to take the wheel and slowly give it some gas. He would push from the back. It was the first time he noticed that she was in pain. She had, in fact, been having pains since already early in the evening. She hadn't said anything because she assumed that it was too early for this to be happening. And she didn't want to be a fool and rush to the hospital only to be told it was false labor. Besides, she had wanted to go to church. But now the pain was severe. She knew she didn't have much time. She had to get to the hospital. Jay was panic-stricken. His friends had teased him about how he would probably break every speed record, getting her to the hospital when the time came. But I'd always figured that he would be pretty calm about it. But he had never, in his wildest imagination, pictured this situation. He didn't know what to do. Should he work some more to get the car free? Should he go someplace and get help? Should he stay with her? When the contraction subsided, he helped her get into the back seat where she could lie down. Fortunately, there was plenty of gas, so they didn't have to worry about being without heat. When she seemed comfortable, he decided to see if he could find help. They had passed a house about a half-mile ago. He knew there was another one, not too far up ahead. He decided he could reach the one downhill more quickly and set out running gingerly over the snow. It was a clear night. The stars were extremely bright, and there was not a sound except for the crunch of his feet in the icy snow. The house they passed was outlined with multicolored Christmas lights and electric candles shone in the window. But there was no sign of life. He rang the doorbell and pounded loudly on the door, thinking that perhaps they were asleep and he could wake them. But no one came. The thought occurred to him that they might be among the crowd still at church. There was another house about 100 yards away, but it was all dark, and he was afraid to leave Miriam alone any longer. He heard the moans even before he got back to the car. It really scared him. He knew he couldn't leave her again. And so, on the back seat of the Chevrolet, on a cold and clear Christmas Eve, Jay and Miriam's first child was born, a little boy. It was an awesome experience. Under any circumstance, the arrival of a new life into the world brings one face to face with matters beyond human comprehension. But in this circumstance, with uncertainty and darkness, the fear and pain, and yet a child, while ever so tiny, yet perfectly formed, with fingers and toes reaching out, a being belonging yet detached, new and independent. This was a night like no other. The tie Jay had so reluctantly put on earlier that evening came in handy. Lacking any blankets or clothes for the newborn, the tie was just a thing to wrap around the infant to keep him warm. They had all been so caught up in things which had to be done that they had almost forgotten the nature of their surroundings. It therefore startled them when the car lit up as if a light had just been turned on. In the interim, the windows had fogged over, and the fog, in turn, had become ice, completely insulating them from the outside. When therefore the brilliant beam of a car or car headlights caught the rear window, the whole car lit up. Jay immediately jumped out. On almost any other winter night this late, there almost certainly would have been no traffic along this road. But this was Christmas Eve, and Grandpa Elias was just returning from his job of playing Santa Claus for his grandchildren, sneaking into the house with a key that had been provided, making tracks and leaving presents, and eating cookies, so that in the morning there would be abundant evidence that Santa had indeed come. Grandpa Elias soon was transformed from Santa Claus into an ambulance driver who whisked the newborn baby, his mother, and the haggard father to the hospital. A premature baby boy, who weighed just 4 pounds 3 ounces, soon became somewhat of a celebrity at the hospital. The nurses on duty that Christmas Eve handed over their flock of patients with amazing enthusiasm. Most of them had the choice of whether to work Christmas or New Year's. The ones there, for the most part, had voluntarily chosen Christmas, mostly to give those with families the opportunity to be at home on that family holiday. As a result, a sort of loyalty and friendship existed among those who were there, not unlike the closeness that sometimes develops among those in combat together or among those who share any difficult experience. There was a sort of pride in knowing they were among the very few hard at work at a time most were home enjoying the holiday. The amazing story of a baby born on the back seat of a car on Christmas night soon became known all over the hospital. The exhausted and shaken parents soon began to warm to the obvious joy of the nurses. The baby even received his first gift. The night watchman, who also heard the story, unexpectedly delivered a wrapped present. It turned out to be perfume in a beautiful gold bottle. One of those perfumes where the bottle probably cost more than the perfume. It's not the best gift I know for a baby boy, he told Miriam apologetically, but I wanted to give him something, since it was obvious that there were no places open on Christmas Eve for him to buy such a gift. The nurses were soon guessing that it was a present he had bought for someone he had been hoping to take out and had been rejected. Be that as it may, it was a nice gesture. I wish I could tell you how the rest of the story goes. I wish I could tell you that Jay, reflecting upon the uncanny similarities of his story with a Christmas story, came to see the remarkable way in which God was being active in his own life. Or I wish I could tell you that Jay, perhaps looking at the nativity on display in the lobby of that religious hospital, began to realize that a little Jesus, a tiny baby like his own child, would not hurt him. That God came not to judge, but to love. That ones who welcome this Christ child into their lives aren't necessarily better than any others. Just people who are no longer afraid to be forgiven. But I can't, because I really don't know the rest of the story. I don't know what happened after this. I only know that all too often, people like Jay never do stop being afraid, despite all that God has done. It is too bad, because a little Jesus really can't hurt you. And let us say, Amen. We worship God in many ways through the giving of ourselves in volunteer service to the church and community. But we also worship God through the giving of our gifts and our offerings. So at this time, I will ask our ushers to please come forward and collect our Christmas offering. prayer of dedication found in the bulletin. Thank you, God of love, for the promise of this season. We are grateful for the generosity aroused in us by Christ coming into the world. May these gifts represent a new spirit of joyous sharing among us, for the sake of all your children everywhere. Amen. And now we will begin our actual candlelight service. And as the individual candles are lit, you are cautioned to only tip on which candle. And our ushers will be coming down to start the Please join me in the prayer that's found in the bulletin. O God of grace and love, we ask as we hold our candles that you grant the real Christmas experience of shining the light of Christ within each of us. Instill within us the knowledge that Christ received into our lives, shining from our lives, makes a real Christmas for the world. Let the world see the light of Christ and the light of love, giving hope to those who live in darkness. Amen. Gabriel foretold it, the angels heralded it, the shepherds came to see for themselves, and it was true. God is with us through Jesus Christ, the babe of Bethlehem, and our resurrected Lord. The world will never be the same. We ourselves will never be the same. Go then and tell the world Jesus Christ is born. Amen. And may you have a very Merry Christmas.
To talk to the commission before the vote comes close to July. Aaron and Bob?
Carol, we saw Commissioner James Quarter get up and leave in the middle of the testimony. Any idea what was going on there?
Not at all. He was gone for quite a bit of the afternoon during Plattsburgh's testimony. I have no idea whether he felt that he already knew the information that was coming at him or if he was simply taking a breather. These people are very tired. They've been going full speed for 15 days between different communities, different hearings, and they want very much to have this process over with.
Carol, we also heard somewhat of an uproar outside the windows of the hearing. Do you know what was happening there?
Yes, actually, spot news that we can't cover. There was a march, a gay rights rally in Boston today. Several thousand people were here, I heard. I did not see any of the event, but apparently a lot of people marching down the street. It did get rowdy for a minute, but the parade passed through quickly, and things were back in control here.
Actually had nothing to do with the Base Closure Commission hearings. All right, Carol, if you'll stand by, live.